Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So there was another new episode of Roswell, New Mexico, and I absolutely could not be happier with this one. I feel like this episode was pretty much geared towards fans of the original series in a way that none of the other episodes have been so far. And I don't know if that's just because that Shiri Appleby was the director of the episode, which she did a fantastic job, I thought. And again, I don't know if it's just because I knew that she was the director or what, but this one just felt like so classic, and I'm just thrilled that they picked her to direct this episode because it was such an homage to the old episodes. Like, just the whole episode was one that I felt was straight out of the 1999 series. Just a lot of things in there was really a callback, so it was really great. Now, this episode picks up 6 weeks later after the previous episode, and the opening shows Max has been kind of reading books and stuff to Isabel, who's still in the pod, and Michael and Liz have been working together on a cure. So they've been working on this, and Michael says something about this is like the 148th trial run that they've done. So they've been working quite a bit to try and save Isabel. Meanwhile, they've told Noah that Isabel is in rehab, and they really didn't plot this one out too well, I don't think, because he's very upset. He wants to know where she's at. He's even went to the police to try to find out where she's at and, making a complaint against Max, because all they've told them is she's in rehab and she needs privacy. Now, after this, we go to the bar where we've got a scene of Alex talking to Maria, and Maria's talking about how her mom's not doing very well. And then Michael walks in. Maria leaves the bar area for a second, and Michael and Alex kind of have this little standoff where, I guess they haven't really talked a whole lot in the past 6 weeks. I think Alex has been avoiding him, especially because of all the new information that he has thanks to his dad. And Michael kind of asks, "Is it over?" And Alex kind of blows him off. He doesn't really say yes. He doesn't really say no. Max shows up at the bar, and he tells Michael that he wants to go see a faith healer in Texas, and he needs a ride because his car is acting up. He shows this flyer that he has for it, and it shows the symbol that he's trying to track down. So they're thinking that maybe this is a connection to the other aliens, to trying to find out, and Michael agrees to take him there. Now, as this is going on, Maria shows up to Liz's lab, and she kind of tells her that, the story that, her mom is getting worse, and she wants to look into other options, meaning she is also wanting to go see the faith healer. So you've got Max and Michael showing up to the faith healer in Texas, and then you've got Maria and Liz showing up as well. And of course, neither one of them are expecting the other to show up, but there they all are. So they're all there to see this Arizona, who is a self-proclaimed healer, and they want to see what her connection is. Well, Max and Michael want to see the connection to the alien side of things, and Maria's just there trying to find alternative medicines to help her mother. Back in Roswell, Alex gets pulled over by Cameron, and instead of giving him a ticket or anything, she just tells him that his father is kind of blackmailing her into finding evidence against anything alien, and she kind of needs his help. Back at the faith healer's place, they're in the tent, and she picks someone from the audience, this old man, and he kind of hobbles up on stage, and she puts her hand over his head, and it looks like her hand glows red, and suddenly he's healed. Of course, Max and Michael are both skeptic about this, but they think maybe she does have a connection to the aliens. Cameron tells Alex that she's been doing some research into mysterious deaths and autopsies, and she has found 14 different autopsies that were done by a person, a coroner named Jane Holden, and in every one of these autopsies there is the handprint that we've seen on Rosa, and all the victims appear to be homeless people, illegal immigrants, that kind of stuff, people that no one knows goes missing. And she said that Dr. Holden, the first autopsy that she has seen of note from her was Rosa's, so there's a connection there. Michael and Maria go undercover for like a consultation with Arizona, and he kind of shows her his hand that's been mangled after, Alex's dad crushed it in a previous episode. And they give this fake story about him still wanting to be a rock star or something like that. And Arizona says, to fix it, it's going to cost $8,000. Michael gets mad, saying they don't have that kind of money, and he leaves thinking that she's just a fraud. Outside the healer's tent, Michael uses his powers to sort of make the tent come open, and they see that the old man who was previously healed, the lady is kind of paying him off, and they see that it's a fraud. Maria, of course, gets very upset about this because she was hoping for a miracle to kind of save her mother, and she gets mad and she starts to storm off, and they ask her where she's going, and she says she's going to a bar. Max and Liz confront Arizona about the fact that she's a fraud. Max gets mad, and it makes these little LED lights that Arizona has strapped to her arm to make the red glow. It makes them pop, so they kind of see where that comes from. They ask her about the sign that's on the flyer, the 3 circles that Max is trying to figure out what's going on with. She tells them it's just clip art that she found, and they get mad and leave. After kind of threatening her with maybe possible jail time. And as she leaves, an older woman shows up and says, what were they asking about? And she tells her what was going on. And the older woman is very leery of this. Max, Michael, Maria, and Liz all end up at a bar. And I really liked this scene. It was, I think to me it was just fun. And it was such a callback to the original series. Maria gets up on stage and starts singing, and while she's no Alejandra Delfino, she does a good job. She starts singing an Alanis Morissette song, and Michael and Liz end up dancing, and then Maria pulls Max up, and they even kind of sing a little bit. And it's just a cute little scene. It didn't really go anywhere, but I thought it was just a fun scene to see the 4 of them kind of interacting like that. Alex and Cameron have called Kyle in on their little quest to find out what's going on with the Jane Holden autopsies, and once he's there, they kind of get to a point in the conversation where they have to reveal to Cameron that they are possibly looking into something very alien, and all of the wheels start turning in her head as she starts to figure this out. Outside the bar, Maria's there, and she's kind of wrapped up in a blanket, and Michael comes walking up to her. She throws him a blanket, and he tells her he's kind of trying to sober up, and she tells him she's trying to get some fresh air, and then they kind of go walking. Back at Project Shepherd, Cameron's kind of having a hard time dealing with the fact that Max may be an alien, and, Alex is quick to say, Max is not a killer, and Kyle says something, is everybody here in love with Max Evans? And Alex just kind of looks at him and he's like, oh, he's not my type. And Kyle says, well, what about angsty cowboy? Referring to Michael. So evidently he's on to the fact that those two may be an item. And Alex just kind of shies away from the subject. During this, Kyle gets a text message from his friend in the admin building at the hospital, and he kind of confirms that there never has been a Dr. Holden. So that all of the autopsies that have been done, they're thinking were possibly done at Project Shepherd. Max and Liz end up getting 2 hotel rooms right across from the bar, but neither one of them can sleep, so they both end up outside talking about, things that have went on in the past 6 weeks between them. Liz ends up telling Max that she forgives him, that she understands that he would do anything to save his sister, and she would have done the same thing. Of course, in the moment that she found out he lied to her, he broke her heart, but she forgives him for this, and she understands. Kyle tells Alex that, they've been through a lot together, and if he ever wants to talk, that they should talk. And Alex, he's kind of looking at a picture of Michael that his father has found, and he tells him, he's kind of scared about all this, that, if they're connected to something, what's going to happen. And Kyle kind of sticks up for him. He says, you should really talk to him. And Alex tells him he's scared, and he said, you should just talk to him, start a conversation. Now, here's where it gets a little messy. You've got Michael and Maria still wandering around the desert, lost. They're trying to probably get back to the bar, and Somewhere, I'm telling you, I heard the squeals of thousands of Candy fangirls out there, because in order to kind of shut Maria up because she's babbling, Michael just grabs her and kisses her, and he tells her, that was just for some silence. And she kind of looks at him for a minute, then she kisses him back. Then they start tearing their clothes off of each other, and they're just going for it. They're out in the desert, and like I said, I could just hear the thousands of Candy fans out there just going nuts for this. And I gotta say that I was probably one of them, because this was very unexpected considering the storyline so far. I've liked this little flirtation between them, but I didn't think anything else was coming from it. But I gotta say, I was kind of into it. The next morning, Max goes back to the faith healer, and he ends up talking to the older lady, and he tells her, he wants to know about where this symbol comes from. The older lady says that, as she grew up on the reservation, there was a woman there who was able to heal people with her hands. And every time she went anywhere, this symbol appeared, in the water, in, flames. That was just like her thing. So Max says, what happened to her, and she says, about 20 years ago she died. And as she died, she said, he has arrived. Now, we don't know who he is. I think we're supposed to speculate that it's Max, but there's no telling who it could be at this point. Michael and Maria end up waking up in the desert, and Maria it kind of all becomes clear to her what's happened, and she tells Michael, this never happened. Don't you tell anybody about this. He kind of, it's only a one-time thing. Of course, he kind of gives her this little grin, like, yeah, whatever you think. And he tells her that Max and Liz had to leave, and so Maria's his ride back to Roswell. And this was just a cute little morning after scene, and I don't know, I just kind of got a grin out of it. Back at Roswell, Max and Liz are in the pod chamber, and they're talking about Isabel, and they end up exiting the pod chamber. And this is the scene that Max and Liz fans of this series, and probably of the previous series, have really been waiting for. And I find it kind of interesting that original Liz, Shiri Appleby, is directing this scene in which Max and Liz finally kiss. It was just a beautifully shot scene. It's very cinematic. I think she did a fantastic job with this one. Max is telling Liz, how he feels about her again, and she's telling him, you don't see my faults, and he tells her he does, but he still loves her anyways. And he starts to leave, and she kind of grabs him, and then she kisses him. And I'm telling you, this scene just really checked all the boxes for me. In the background, you've got a cover of Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, which is possibly one of my all-time favorite songs, playing. And like I said, it's just this kind of epic looking scene. There's like a panoramic. It's got the desert in the background as they're kissing, and it was just really beautiful. I loved this scene, and I thought that Shiri did a fantastic job filming it. I mean, it felt right, considering, you have the old cast bringing something to the new cast, and I thought this was absolutely perfect. Now, while Max and Liz are having this epic moment, in the background, Noah has showed up, and I guess he's been following Max, and of course they don't see him there because they're kind of wrapped up in each other, but he sneaks into the pod chamber and he sees Isabel, and so he obviously recognizes that she's in there. Now, later on, you have him calling the police station, and he's telling her, yeah, I saw my wife in rehab. She's fine. I just wanted to let you guys know that I found her, and I'm dropping the charges. Obviously, all is not well with this. It's just he's trying to cover this up, and I'm assuming he will confront Max about this at a later date. Kyle comes to Cameron and tells her that the reason he recognized Jane Holden's name was that it was the name of the coroner on his father's autopsy. And so he's realizing now that possibly his dad didn't die from an aneurysm. Maybe, he died of something alien, and Jesse Maines has covered it up. Alex shows up to Michael's trailer, and as he gets out, Michael starts walking towards him. He's kind of got a limp, and he starts to take off his boot, and Alex is like, what are you doing? And Michael says, there's something in my boot. And he pulls it out, and it's a necklace. And Alex instantly recognizes it. He says, that's Maria's. Now, nothing else is really said about this. And I couldn't decide if Michael was doing this on purpose to kind of, kind of be mean to Alex, like, hey, I've slept with someone else. I don't know. They don't really put two and two together. I mean, I figure they will at some point, because why else would they show this scene? But I think it's there for a reason. But anyways, Alex tells Michael, that he can't just walk away from him, that, he thinks they were in love, and Michael agrees. And he says, we didn't even really know each other very well, but he wants to get to know him now. And he says, I want to know who you are. And Michael kind of follows that up with saying, you want to know who I am or what I am? And Alex just says yes. So, and there's no really, that's pretty much how that scene ends there. So there's no real follow up to that one. It's just, I think that's his way of saying, I know what you are, but I want you to tell me. Now, at the very end, Liz shows up back to the pod chamber where Max is there reading to Isabel, as he's done for, 6 weeks. And she tells him, I guess because she has spoke with Kyle at some point about the autopsies and the possibility of another alien. And she tells Max that she believes there is another alien, a fourth alien, and it's, someone who's more dangerous than they've ever thought. And the episode ends there. So overall, another really good episode. I was so thrilled that Shiri Appleby directed this. And, we've only got a couple more episodes yet, and the CW has still not said anything about a renewal, which is making me very nervous because this is just getting so good. Now they've introduced this kind of triangle with Alex, Michael, and Maria, which I never expected at this point in the show, but it's very interesting. And, you've got Max and Liz finally getting together. Obviously, I kind of figure they're going to get ripped apart at some point just because that's the nature of these shows. But this finally happened, and like I said, we still don't have a renewal notice, and it's driving me nuts. So anyways, definitely check this one out. If you're going to watch it, I say watch it on the CW's app. More views makes more sense to the CW, to renew this. So definitely think about that when you're watching it. And anyways, I will be back next week with another recap of the show, as I am every week. Be sure and give this a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and some comments down below. All that good stuff. Anyways, I'm going to leave this one here. Have a good day, guys.